Next Monday is, of course, President's Day. But did you know that no less than 10 presidents have visited Haverhill, 7 of them while in office? In honor of this prestigious holiday, the Journal's Shaina Richards headed out to trace the hometown footsteps of these great leaders.
You may know this area as Washington Landing Park, but you may not know that 226 years ago, George Washington landed here for his first trip to Haverhill. Sworn into office in April of 1789 as our nation's first president, he soon traveled from New York to Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and ended up visiting Haverhill on November 4th and 5th, 1789. He was accompanied by 3 men, a servant, his secretary, and a friend, and traveled simply by open carriage drawn by 4 horses. On the morning of November 5th, he inspected the 100-man militia and took the ferry across the Merrimack from Haverhill to Bradford on his 9-mile journey to breakfast at Abbott's Tavern in Andover. In the wake of his visit, the city named a street and a square in his memory. A granite marker in front of the post office in Washington Square notes the historic visit. A statue of Washington is located in the Haverhill Public Library as well. The second president to visit Haverhill was James Polk, the 11th U.S. president. While campaigning for a second term in office, his train stopped at the Haverhill Depot in 1846. The third president here was Ulysses S. Grant, the 18th president, who also visited in his second term. The fourth president to visit Haverhill was Benjamin Harrison, the 23rd U.S. president. He visited Haverhill on August 8, 1889. Followed by a parade from the Pentucket Light Infantry and a political group called the Brothers Jonathan, an estimated crowd of 10,000 people gathered at Railroad Square to cheer the president as he accepted flowers from his car. Next, Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th U.S. president, visited the city. He arrived in Haverhill on August 26, 1902. Accompanied by Haverhill native and Secretary of the Navy, William Moody, the president spoke briefly to a crowd estimated at 40,000 about the importance of the Navy. Roosevelt was well versed in this topic as he had previously served as Navy Secretary under McKinley and written a history of the Naval War of 1812. His full speech is reported in the Haverhill Gazette Evening Edition of August 26, 1902. Roosevelt campaigned again for president and visited Haverhill on the morning of April 29, 1912. His brief speech extolled the progressive values of his Republican Square Deal. On this same day, crowds of 15,000 gathered in drizzling rain in Washington Square to greet President William Taft and hear his re-election campaign speech on the eve of the primary. Here at Haverhill train station, on an ordinary day like today, it's not too crowded. But back on October 17, 1952, a crowd of 8,000 gathered in this spot to see President Harry Truman speak. Haverhill Mayor Joseph Willett proclaimed the day Truman Day in honor of his appearance. Accompanied by local Democratic dignitaries on his train trip from Plaistow, New Hampshire, he arrived at the Haverhill Depot shortly after noontime, spoke briefly about his candidate for President Stevenson, and introduced his daughter, Margaret. I'll bet you never would have imagined all these historic figures setting foot in the city of Haverhill. As you can see, several U.S. presidents left their footprint in Haverhill. We wish you a happy President's Day. For the Haverhill Journal, I'm Shaina Richards.